Today I'm going to talk to you about what we've done in the Learning Design and Technologies program at Arizona State University. We are using AI mentors as design partners. This language is very intentional because even from the get-go, it was very clear that AI was going to definitely have a role in the learning design field as some kind of design partner. And you have no better evidence of that than looking at any application we use as instructional designers, learning designers, in which every single application now has some kind of AI built into it. So I am Steve Salik. I'm a clinical associate professor at the Learning Design and Technologies program, and I am also the program coordinator for the MasterCard Foundation's e-learning scholars program. This is a program that is working with partner universities across the continent of Africa to increase their capacity to develop online and blended learning. And essentially, what we do is we have faculty and support staff from those higher ed institutions in our certificate program, and then they kind of act as evangelists, if you would, extolling the virtue of blended and online learning. So, how did we get to where we are at ASU right now? And I will go through this and I will leave room for questions. If you have a question that you don't want to forget, go ahead and throw it in the chat. So, like many of you, I woke up to this lovely email or this lovely web announcement on November 30th, 2022, introducing ChatGPT. And as many of you who have been doing this for a while may know, anytime you have an announcement of an emergent technology like this, everybody starts looking carefully and talking about it very deliberately. And the first thing we started talking about, of course, you have all been to this meeting. Um, I affectionately refer to these as the fist shaking meetings. These are typically the first meeting you have right after these emergent technologies are announced and people figure out what they can do. And the reason I call it the fist shaking meeting is because you go into this meeting and they're like, we've got to ban this. This is a cheating tool. So there was that kind of discussion. And this meeting took place, I don't know, around the second week of December at our institution. And, people were outraged and they were mad and they were convinced that this was going to be the end of higher education, kind of like MOOCs and every other LMS and every other emergent technology that came before it. I will grant, however, that this is a general purpose technology, and it does have a much further reach than the typical emergent purpose-built emergent technologies that we're used to. So there is that to consider. So as we were going through the fish shaking meeting, everybody was talking about what they wanted to do with this and how they wanted to address this. And the first thing, people were saying is, oh, we've got to ban this, we've got to restrict its use. And finally, the discussion made it around the table to me, and I was asked, well, what do you plan to do about this in the learning design program? And my response is that we're going to begin a systematic implementation of generative AI into the Learning Design and Technologies program beginning in the spring of 2023. And that's what we did. We immediately started figuring out how we were going to implement these technologies into our program at a variety of levels. So today, I'm going to basically talking about what we are doing in terms of student-facing stuff, but we are using this all across the domain. We're using it for program management. We're using it to support neurodivergent learners. We're using it in a variety of different contexts. So here's a quick timeline of where we started and where we're going and what we're kind of doing these days. So in November of 2022, ChatGPT dropped, and we sat down as a program and we thought about what we're going to do about that. Unlike a lot of other initiatives, where we decided, oh, this person can do that and that person can do whatever they want, and kind of this slapdash approach to implementing these emergent technologies. We assessed this on what we wanted to do with it because it is a general purpose technology and it had the ability to impact our program at a variety of levels. So we decided we're going to take a programmatic approach to this. It's going to be implemented across the program in a specific way. All of the faculty are going to use it in a student-facing way. Everybody's going to use it in the same way, and this is the framework we've constructed for it. And we went on from there. So we decided that in the early part of January 2023, our spring semester here at ASU begins just around Martin Luther King Day or just after it. And immediately when the semester started, we began doing some experimentation, or as I like to refer to it, some yak shaving. If you're not familiar with this term, you can Google it. We began to do some yak shaving, and that yak shaving involved, oh, how do we want to use this in our program? What do we want the assignments and discussions to look like if AI is impacting them? What level of instruction do we need to provide to the students to make this work? What about the students who don't have experience with AI? How is this going to play? How is this going to work in Canvas? So we began experimenting with those things. We did a few controlled experiments trying to determine how the technologies were going to talk to each other, we're going to play to each other, and those kinds of things. So we did that through the summer of 2023. Once we had decided on a framework and what we wanted things to look like, um, we decided that we needed some kind of unifying strategy to tie all these things together. Students moving from course to course and using AI was fine, but we decided in the bigger scale of things that we wanted there to be some kind of unifying experience that tied all of these things together. And what we decided on were these AI mentors. So the AI mentors were used, and they started to gradually become more powerful. I'll talk a little bit about why and how of that in a minute. And most recently, in January of this year, we started becoming even more powerful still. And because of a couple of things that occurred during our spring semester, we started to think about creating a cast of characters beyond our mentors. So there was a variety of drivers governing this approach that we took. The first thing was we have a lot of, we're a teachers college, a college of education. So a lot of our students are currently classroom teachers who are coming into the learning design and technology program because they want to stay involved in learning design or learning, teaching and learning somehow, but they're trying to escape the classroom. They're relatively low on the technology use scale, are not always facile with the technology. They're not always aware of emergent technologies. So our leading reason really was to try to get a foundation for all of our students and ease them into the use of AI. Another thing that many of you may notice in your courses, I don't suppose this is specific to us, is that students often lack some professional communication skills. So we were thinking by creating some kind of interactive dialogue with these mentors, we could help them develop professional communication skills. We also wanted them to transition to professional practice gracefully. And it was very clear to me and to us from the start that AI was going to have a significant role in their future as learning designers and in their professional practice. So we wanted to incorporated into the program to make sure that when our students left the program, they were ready to go into professional practice and deal with this issue. We've already had in the comparatively short time, internet years, we've already had several students get back to us and essentially say, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know that I found a job, and the reason I found the job was because the work we're doing with AI at ASU, and essentially they said it put us ahead of the other candidates who hadn't had experience with AI." We also want to use AI to create consistent learning experiences for all our students. I'll go into this a little later, but in some cases it can act as a leveler that helps some of our students who are neurodivergent, we'll just say fall under that very broad umbrella, that term in the broadest sense. Likewise, supporting learner variability, same thing. We also were looking in the long term to do strategic planning, so we wanted to develop a scalable, flexible model. And then, of course, we always talk about ethics and bias in AI. I am not one that's willing to sit down and have a deep, in-depth, super philosophical discussion about ethical use, and several people have called me on that, but I'm quick to point out that these technologies are changing on an almost daily basis. So yes, there is kind of like this middle ground of ethical use. But what we've done here at the Mary Lou Fulton College is we've grounded it in one of our university's design aspirations called principled innovation. So these are our AI mentors. There are currently 6 mentors. There are 4 female mentors and 2 male mentors. And what happens is when a student enters our foundations course and actually this page where they discover their AI mentor is in all of our courses because some of our students are from outside of the college occasionally. So when students enter a course, there is a page called Meet Your AI Mentor. There's some instruction about it, about what to do, about how to create your AI mentor. At the present time, what they do is they will click on one of these pictures, and it depends on the first letter of their last name. That's how they get assigned a mentor. So they'll pick a mentor, they'll click on the picture for these mentors. It will download a text file to the student. That student will use that text file to invoke the mentor in ChatGPT, and then they can go back and talk to their mentor throughout the program. I'll go into this a little more deeply in a few minutes because we are changing the way this process works. So the way these mentors are written is this is an extensive prompt that I've created. I want to say it's like 12 pages at this point or something like that. And the prompt essentially does a lot of things, but it basically gives them the foundational knowledge of a learning design and technologies or instructional design practitioner who's been at it for 18 plus years. And basically, in the prompt, it gives instructions about these are the foundational theories, you know. So it goes through cognitive load theory, Mayer's theory of multimedia, self-determination theory, all the theories that we are so affectionate about. And it's got a list of those. It's also got a list, I'll circle back to the other. It's also got a list of um, foundational texts that we tend to use in the discipline. It's got instructions for how to interact with the student. It's got a bunch of other things that are related to uh, the broad base of disciplinary knowledge we have as instructional designers, as learning designers. Then within the context of that broad prompt, there is an actual personality, and these personalities are the mentors you see here on the screen. Each of these mentors has been given a backstory and a biography, and it's actually very detailed. Yes, we are, Jared. And it's actually very detailed, and it goes into how long they've been practicing instructional design, the companies they've worked for, who they supervise, what their successes and failures are, and a variety of other personal artifacts about where they got their degree, what their degree is, who influenced them in their career. So those are the things that are included in the prompt. So now when a student is interacting with these mentors, uh, we what'll generally happen is the mentor can answer a question, and often it can answer the question from their personal perspective. So if the student were to ask them about something that failed in their career, they can answer that question, and it's going to answer it from their personal experience. So the failures of Jasmine are not the failures of Mark, and they'll have different successes and failures. And that's basically how the prompt works. So, how do students know when to interact with their mentors? Well, throughout the courses, we have embedded these minty fresh Ask Your Mentor boxes. And these boxes are included in assignments and discussions throughout our courses. There are 2 basic types of Ask Your Mentor activities. The first is the one you're seeing here. It gives them some instruction about what to do with their mentor, and then it gives them an actual prompt that they should be using. So they're going to use this actual prompt here in the gray box. In other places, there's no prompt, but there's just basic instructions in the green box that say do this, that, or the other thing with your mentor. And that's how students know when to interact with them. Some people are going to ask as an anticipatory question, how do you know what output they're getting, what they're looking at? So is further down, actually you can see it on this. Whoops. Actually, you can't see it in this one here in step four. It tells them to copy and paste the AI mentor's analysis. So we do ask for parts of what the mentor is telling them back. So we can do two things. We can see how the student is getting from point A to point B based on the advice of their mentor. And we can also use that information to help us tune the prompt and make sure nothing is going wrong. Our experience thus far, because our prompts are very tight, extensive, and cohesive, is that we have had minimum hallucination. I will tell a story that recently happened. I was having a discussion with one of our students, excuse me, who's a learning designer in another college here at ASU, and the kind of discussion was, hey, we really like this idea of the mentor, and we'd like to figure out how we can apply it in our college. And during this discussion, the student offhandedly mentioned, oh yeah, he goes, I asked my mentor who their PhD mentor was, who their PhD advisor was. And I said, "Oh, what did he say?" And the mentor said that quickly reminded me they didn't have a PhD; they only had a master's degree from San Diego State University. So that part of the interaction that was in the prompt. You have a master's degree in learning design and technologies from San Diego State University. So that was part of the prompt. And then the student went on to say, "Oh yeah," and then after they reminded me they only had a master's degree, they went on to tell me who their master's thesis advisors were. And as they're telling me this, I'm thinking in my head, oh, great, AI hallucinated and made up some names to fill in the blank. And just out of curiosity, I said, well, send me the transcript to that. And they did. And I was reviewing the transcript and I said, one of these names sounds just vaguely familiar. So I checked it out, and the AI actually picked out people who are the master's thesis pro or the master's program advisors at San Diego State University. So it didn't actually hallucinate, it actually found the actual staff for the master's program. So, hallucination, yes, it happens occasionally, but the incidence of it for us so far is pretty low. And to speak to that, why do we have so few hallucinations? We really craft our prompts very tightly. We go agonizingly over the context we want, and we really use a variety of prompt frameworks to develop our prompts. So we define our task, we put constraints on the scope, and we ask it to do other things so that it avoids speculation. Now, the odd thing about AI, for those of you who've worked with it, is if you tell it not to do something, it will often ignore you, or it will, do more of that. So, for example, as we were beginning to work with these AI mentors, one thing that I really didn't like is that when a student asked a question and the mentor was answering the question, would frequently use lists to answer the question. So it would give a list of attributes. Let's say I wanted to explain the narrative, oh, I don't know, Mayer's principles of multimedia, and I just wanted to explain that in a nice narrative to the student. It would just list them out: one, da da da, two, redundancy, three. And I would tell it in the prompt not to do that, and it would actually sometimes do it more. And somebody here in our AI accelerator team said, well, try this. And one of the things I tried was you have six cookies. I told the AI, you have six cookies. Every time you answer something in a list, I'm going to take away one cookie. You cannot end up with less than zero cookies. And that seemed at that time, for that iteration of the prompt, it seemed to solve that problem, oddly enough, ironically. So sometimes if you go through these strange and convoluted manipulations in your prompt, like explaining to the AI, you're going to fine it if it does certain things. It can mitigate some of its weird behavior. Also, you're going to want to avoid ambiguity and redundancy, because redundancy will confuse it. And then finally, this isn't something that a ton of people have access to, but you want to use RAG, or retrieval augmented generation, or tool augmented models. So what RAG is, I'll show that in a minute. You can add content or other articles, PDFs, in some cases websites. You can add that to your prompt, or you can add it into in some cases, a GPT, and it'll draw from both the trained information it has and use some of those things in the responses. So, to speak to that issue, ASU is the 800-pound gorilla in the room. And that really means we have a lot of access to resources, fortunately. And one of the resources we have access to is AI Builder. Because we are the 800-pound gorilla, we actually have a formal relationship with OpenAI here at ASU. One of the things that we have as a consequence of that is our own enterprise version of ChatGPT, which is essentially a walled garden. So any information we put in there is not going back out to OpenAI's training models. It also enables us to do a variety of other things. We currently have, I'm going to say that the actual number is 50, but the ones we as faculty have access to on a daily basis are about 30 different large language models, and I'll show that in a couple of minutes. We also have something, AI Builder allows us to create custom instructions. Now, the most analogous thing AI Builder would make you think of as a GPT. The difference here is, in trying to go through this slide, is that when I create something in AI Builder, I can run it against one of 30 different models instead of just ChatGPT. Um, it also uses RAG, so I can include articles, text files, a variety of other reference information for the AI to look at in addition to its training or knowledge, or in some cases, I can turn off its ability to look at its own training and data and rely only on the information I have given it. Where would this be relevant? For me, for our program, it's not. But we do have groups here at ASU who are student advising groups. They are trying to construct things like program bots or bots that can answer advising questions because, as well as I do, there's never enough advisors to go around. Um, so that's one of the good things about using RAG. It also allows us to customize the front end experience. I'm going to show you something that looks relatively generic, but we're hoping that we're going to have more ability to custom the look and feel of it by when this thing goes into full production in the fall. We're currently in the beta version of AI Builder. And then the other nice thing about it, as I said, is we have privacy and security and FERPA compliance limitations that we have to follow. And our relationship with OpenAI allows us to do that because, again, all of that stuff is in a walled garden and it doesn't go out to the training databases of these different LLMs. So a little early for that. So let me show you what AI Builder looks like, and let me show you what one of the mentors looks like first, and we'll do an exercise, quick simulate a quick assignment with that, and then I'll go on to some other things. Let me grab some text here that I need. Okay. So if we look over here, this is kind of the vanilla thing of what AI Builder looks like. This would be the student-facing side. And I can embed this in, uh, can everybody see that? Emily Chen? Okay, great. And this is what the latest iteration of AI Builder looks like, and we'll be able to customize this for the look and feel. This can be embedded in a learning management system using embed code. And we're working with the AI Accelerator team to figure out what kind of presentation we want when it's in Canvas or whatever your LMS is. So in this particular case, this is Emily Chen. Generally, the way it works is when the student first creates their mentor starts asking him the questions, hey, what drew you to learning design, blah, 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 and it goes on, and the students get familiar with it. So by this point, you can see I've had a variety of interactions with Emily there over the time. And so Emily knows who I am, and much like you would in OpenAI's ChatGPT, it kind of remembers things and it knows things. So in this particular case, what students are doing this week is I am teaching a foundations course over the summer, And for those of you who are instructional designers, one of the things you probably struggled with when you first came to instructional design was writing well-written learning objectives. So for this particular week, what students have to do is they have to write learning objectives. And in the past, before our AI mentors were in place, that would be it. And we, the instructors, would go in there and we would painstakingly critique their objectives. Now they have to hand their objectives off to their AI mentor who reviews them. And the prompt I have pasted in the context window there. The first part of it is the actual prompt you saw in that gray box. And then the second part of it are three learning objectives that I listed from a student's assignment. So I'm going to submit that to Emily, and Emily is going to analyze the learning objectives and make sure they're using verbs drawn from Bloom's taxonomy. And in this particular course, we follow Mager's um, methodology for writing objective. So it's going to go through what's done well, what's not done well, why they're not doing this, that, or the other thing. And it's going to give them some analysis and context for their verbs. So this is basically a summary of the key points. This is what the analysis does. Then the students are required to copy this into their assignment. They're allowed to make revisions to their objectives based on the advice from their mentor if they like, and then they turn that all in. And basically, there's a part of the assignment where they have to do an analysis of what they wrote and what the mentor said, and there's some comparative stuff in there. So it's not just that they're getting this stuff and then just using it. There is some critical thinking in there. Part of the prompt also is the mentor really doesn't answer questions, just abstract questions. It won't answer them directly. It prompts a student for critical thinking, and it gives them leading questions when they're just trying to have a dialogue. And we had to have a couple of students tell us they've taken their mentors to their actual job. We do have a few students who are practicing learning designers and report that they've used these mentors at work, and it's been helpful for them. So this was going along great. We had 6 mentors. Everything was honky and or dory. They're working out. We're beginning to hone in on making the prompts tighter, getting more accurate responses. But we do have a couple of hangups that we're currently addressing because of the way that we're using these. The first hangup is we face length limits because a lot of our students are using the free version of ChatGPT. As I said, in the fall semester, that limitation will go away because we'll be moving them all to AI Builder, so that won't be a limitation anymore. The hiccup up until now, frankly, has just been some technical issues with the way permissions are constructed around AI Builder. That problem has now been resolved. So we're going through a new iteration of the prompt in which we give the mentors more apathy and, excuse me, not apathy, empathy. We're giving the mentors more empathy for the students, and we're giving them more of an inclination to push for critical thinking. And the final revision for this next prompt we will be connecting the mentors to other things that are built into our program. An example of this is we use Slack extensively here at ASU in our courses. It's embedded in all of our courses. It is a kind of a real-time communication device for our students between student to student, student to instructor, and all the way around. And one of the things that I designed back in the COVID era, back during the zombie apocalypse, was something called the panic button, which is a Slack workflow. And what students can do is they can hit the shortcut for that workflow. It'll ask them red, green, or yellow. What's the urgency of your problem? Emotional meltdown, financial meltdown, whatever. And then there's some text box that they can type into. When they hit submit, that information comes directly to my beautiful Apple Watch. And then at that point, I'm able to triage it and take care of it myself if it's a teaching and learning issue, or I hand it off to our coordinator care team if it's a health issue or some other thing like that. So what we're doing in this next iteration of the mentors is if a student is doing too much negative talk when they're interacting with the mentor, if they're, I like to call it Eeyoring, oh, I can't do this, this is impossible. If they're Eeyoring too much, the mentor will eventually tell them to use the panic button to contact their instructor. So we're beginning to hook these things together. So as I said, we were going along great. but we ran into length limits. In the spring, second part of the spring semester, I was teaching an evaluation class, and teaching our students qualitative analysis is beyond the scope of this class, but I want them to know what it is. I want them to understand how it works, and I want them to have a basic idea of how a thematic analysis is conducted. So we had constructed a minty green box that gave them instructions on how to ask their mentor to help them with a qualitative analysis, do a quick thematic analysis. But the problem we ran into immediately was that ChatGPT has length limits. You can only put so much stuff into it at one time. And because they were having 4 or 5 transcripts from semi-structured interviews, that blew the length limits up. So it didn't work. So we very quickly turned around and we created a new digital assistant. We created Dr. Norm L. Distribution here. Dr. Distribution is a psychometrician who is here to help the students with their problems. And I've already had the preliminary interaction with Dr. Distribution here to cut down on the demonstration time, but basically he's explaining the basic foundations of how you would do a qualitative analysis based on Braun and Clark's work. And now here are the transcripts from the semi-structured interview. So I'm going to send those to Dr. Distribution, and he's going to look at them and walk me through the process of doing a thematic analysis. So he's going to start telling me, familiarize myself with the data. That's the first step. Dr. Gavin is out there. I see she might be able to speak to how well this is working for me. The first step, and it's going to take you through step by step. Phase 2, generating initial codes. Phase 3, blah, blah, blah. And it goes on and on. At the end of this thing, I'm just going to stop it here. But at the end of this thing, um, it creates a brief thematic analysis report for the student, and they're able to use that in their paper for the course. They're still physically doing the quantitative analysis. This is just an exercise in teaching them how to triangulate their data and how to talk about qualitative and quantitative together in the same report. So that was the purpose behind Norm L distribution. Once we created Norm and looked at how well he was working, we kind of thought, well, maybe we want to expand uh, our mentor to a cast of dozens or hundreds. So one of the things we're now considering is, when you ask your mentor, yeah, they have general knowledge and things, and they can answer that question, but it's something really specialized. We may create additional digital partners, digital bots, whatever you prefer to call them, to help the student. So you could ask Emily Chen a question and say, hey, I want to do a thematic analysis. How do I do that? And Emily would respond, I can help you with that, and I'm okay at doing it. But, maybe you want to talk to maybe you want to talk to Dr. Distribution, who's more of an expert than I am. So that's kind of the trajectory we're headed on with our digital presence. And there's Dr. Distribution. I just did a digital demonstration of that. So we're anchoring all of this with the Principled Innovation Framework. Principled Innovation was something that was created here, the Mary Lou Fulton College of Teaching and Learning Innovation. It was adopted within the past 24 months by the university itself as its 9th design aspiration. So we're linking the way in which we integrate AI with these aspects of principled innovation. Why should you use it? Should you do it at all? How does it engage with your community? All these things that principled innovation attempts to answer. At the same time, because of the current political climate, we're also anchoring each one of these things we do with our digital mentors, our AI mentors, to the IBS-STIPI instructional designer competencies. And the reason for that is just if somebody comes along at some point in the future and says something like, principled innovation is too woke, don't teach that anymore, we can just roll back to the IBS-STIPI standards. Not something that we're, enthusiastic about happening, but it is within the realm of potential outcomes these days. So here's what we're seeing. We are seeing improved communication and collaboration skills from our students. Their assignments look a lot better, even their assignments when they're not using AI is part of that assignment. They are thinking things through a little bit. Are they using AI to help write stuff? Yes, they are. We're not going to change that. We're not going to ban it. Your student has used AI to help write something if you see M dashes in their paper because AI loves, for whatever reason, M dashes. We are seeing increased student regulation, and one of the reasons we're seeing increased student regulation is because we've also constructed a couple of other tools as part of this. And one of those tools is kind of like these time management tools. This is the latest iteration, which I'm developing for our advising team. So, should I eat a frog? For those of you who know this, this is like a time management strategy. So, students can interact with this time management bot. It'll give them some strategies. But if you go back to the first screen here, they can actually cut and paste the assignment instructions into this particular agent. And what it'll do is it'll break it down and, it'll ask them, when are you best, morning, noon, or night? How many hours a day do you have to work on this? What days can't you work on this? And it'll create a text output of a checkbox kind of thing where it's like Tuesday, work on this for an hour, Wednesday, work on that for 30 minutes. So that's one of the reasons we're also seeing self-regulation improvements is because we're using it in that capacity. Also, it's also helping them plan their projects and engage with their peers more because they're able to kind of come and and a in a leveling agent. And AI is a leveling tool, so we are using it. You just saw that organizer thing. Uh, as a leveling tool. It helps students. We have prompts that we can send to students via email. Let's say here, if we're having trouble comprehending the text on that Canvas page, go try this prompt. It'll simplify the text. In some cases, we do use some of the other AI tools we have here to do voiceover, so we can turn every page in Canvas. We use Canvas. We can turn every page, all the text on every page in Canvas, so that it's spoken when we know we have a student who's coming in with some kind of visual acuity issue or a problem like that. So those are basically the things we're seeing. Are we collecting hard data? We will be effective in the fall of 2025. Why haven't we collected hard data yet? Well, these technologies are changing too rapidly. Whatever we would learn from any hard data we could create is problematic. The other issue is because of the way we've been working up until now with each student using their own free version of ChatGPT, getting that data is hard. Now that we're moving them into AI Builder, we will have a way to see what their interactions with the mentors are and track those conversations. So one final thing I want to say before we get to Q&A is, keep yourself in the loop and remember that it does have bias and ethical issues. Um, I don't have a lot to say about that. You just have to keep an eye out for it and try to tune your prompts to minimize bias. You are not going to eliminate it. It is built into AI because of the material that's been used to train it. And how you interpret bias, we're all going to interpret what bias is a little differently. If you're interested in looking at some of these issues of bias in AI, I would suggest Googling Melissa Warr, that's Warr. She's actually a graduate of our program who's now a faculty member. I want to say at New Mexico State University, but it's in New Mexico. I don't remember which university. But she's been doing a lot of work on bias mitigation and bias in AI. So that's basically all of my comments. I want to show one other thing real quick because somebody was asking about it. This is what the back end of AI looks like. And who was it? Jennifer was asking what information was used to program the Condo bot. I just named it Condo bot on a lark because it's supposed to be organization. So this is the knowledge base. And what I've done is I've created several text abstracts of these different theories and productivity methods, and I loaded that in here. I hope that answers your question. Jared asked the question. And what you can do here in AI Builder is I can control for how I wanted to use the knowledge base, either just the knowledge base or the knowledge base and things. We can also turn up the temperature so that it gets more creative. And there's a variety of other little things we have that we can, turn on and off to make our agents more responsive to students. So with that said, I will take questions now about whatever you got.